You know what we do? We do's the news. There's the data, folks. We don't look at the polls. We look at the betting markets where people put their hard-earned cash on the line. And there is a lot of money coming into these betting markets across various sites. We're talking $40,000, $60,000, $100 bets. And we can trust them generally because there's been enough money put into many of these markets that superpower players cannot trick these markets by pouring in money to manipulate the data. It's at a point now where these are real people, real bets, and Donald Trump has this 20-point lead. Now, 20 points in the betting market is not like 20 points in a polling market, but once you get above 5, 10 points in the betting market, that is a significant comparable margin to a lead in a polling data analysis. So there you can see it, all swing states to Trump. I've been telling you for months, this thing is over. Don't trust the polls. You're being misled. You're being told it's a close race. Hedge fund manager Dana Loeb believes Trump's chances are increasing and he's betting accordingly. He's switching his investments, preparing for a Trump administration. He is a billionaire. You don't become a billionaire by accident. You become a billionaire by making the right choices, by making wise investments. And if a billionaire is going to do it, who else are you going to trust? It's not just some nobody who thinks he's going to win. It's a person with a proven track record who's willing to put his hedge fund on the line. Here we see Regal Clear Politics, maybe one of the best polling organizations, although most polls aren't that great. This is one we can trust generally, and they're giving all the swing states to Mr. Trump and Mr. Vance, 312, 226, well past the 270 margin, and we're now starting to see the backpedaling, the CYA from the media and from politicians on the left or from the Democrats. They know there's about to be a backlash when the public realizes that this race has never been close. And so they're doing their spin so they don't take the blame. And in this article by the New York Times, they're saying, oh, hey, remember 2016, the polls are wrong. Oh, hey, remember 2020, the polls are wrong. Oh, hey, the polls are wrong again. Well, if the polls are wrong, then why have you been showing the polls all year? Why continue to roll out polling data that shows Harris is in the lead when you know that the polling data is always wrong? Couldn't you have at least mentioned that months ago? Why are you mentioning that now? Why are you making excuses now? You're going to see a lot of that over the next couple weeks. Democrats worried about polls undercounting Donald Trump. I told you this at the beginning of the year. Political polls tend to undercount Republican votes. Polling data requires on getting responses, and the Republican side of the aisle responds less. They pick up the phone less. This is not anecdotal. We can look at the data and prove year after year that polling data skews towards the left side, to the Democrats. They're more likely to respond in polls. This is known. Democrats fear pollsters are undercounting Trump. Key things to know about U.S. election polling in 2024. Many polls underestimate the strength of Republican candidates, including Donald Trump. Don't trust me? Don't believe these headlines? Let's just look at the data. 4 years ago, Biden was supposed to win Pennsylvania, according to the polls, by 5.6 points. In reality, he won by 1.2. That's over a 4-point margin of error. That is a very significant margin of error in the polling data. Clearly, the polling data skewed to the left. It undercounted Republican votes. Wisconsin, an easy 6.1 win. He didn't even win by a point. 7-2 in Michigan, it was at 2.8 in the end. You can run through the numbers from that election, and you're going to find generally a 4 to 5 point margin of error, which basically means you could look at this year's polling data, go to Trump, and always add 4 to 5 points. So Trump is currently leading in Pennsylvania by 0.5. Well, that's actually probably 4.5. He's probably up actually by 4 in Wisconsin, 5 in Michigan, 6 in Arizona. This race is over. It has been over. Why are we being misled by the media, by the Democratic Party, being told that this is close? But the national poll shows national polls don't mean anything. It means nothing, nothing, nothing. It's all about the state-by-state races with the Electoral College. And it's not even every state. It's the swing states. And as we can see in the swing states, Trump is clearly up. He has been up. All of the events, everything that has led up to this moment, as we documented in previous lessons, points towards Trump. Sure, there was hype. Sure, there was fundraising. And there was a lot of positives that happened this summer for Kamala Harris, but that was a honeymoon. That was hype. It was going to fade. Cinderella's carriage would eventually turn into a pumpkin, and she would have to own her record with the Biden-Harris administration. People didn't forget. Now, people in the left silo, in the left bubble, don't see it this way and think she's doing fine. They're the dog sipping coffee while the house is burning down. But they're listening to the media. They're listening to what they're being told by the Democratic Party and being loyal soldiers to the cause. Their minds aren't going to change. They're not going to understand this. But the people on the other side of the aisle, the Republicans, knew all along. And the people in the middle are now realizing it. They're waking up. They're seeing. Or at the very least, they just witnessed the carriage turn into a pumpkin. And they have once again remembered the last 4 years of the Biden-Harris administration. Now, a lot of this reminder has become due to the poor interviews by Harris. Now, on the left side, the spin side, they think the interviews are fine. On the right side, the opponent's side, they think the interviews have been a disaster. But what about the middle? The people that are going to decide the vote, the people that are going to decide the vote in these swing states, they're seeing the real Harris and they're being reminded of more of Biden, more of the same policies, more of the same failures. And so whether they are never Trumpers, like Trump, hate Trump, are indifferent about Trump, they are ultimately deciding to switch over and vote for the Republican Party. And we're seeing this in all the information and all the data. It is pouring out. The dam wall has busted. The flood wall has braked. And now the excuses are coming out. Now the stories are being released and people are finding out what is really going on. Now, again, over in the blue silo, in that bubble, the dam is firmly in place. They have no idea what is really happening. They're not searching outside media sources. They're not realizing what is really going on. They're sticking to MSNBC. They're sticking to their political leaders and trusting them and believing everything that they say. And so everything's just fine. But everywhere else, we're finding out there are cracks in the dam, and the dam is already busted. And this thing is over. Look at the betting markets. And the betting markets have become so significant that even the polling numbers are having to change. We're seeing big-time pollsters, big-time data analytics professionals say Trump's winning. Here we go. Floodgates pouring out. Democrats' pro-union strategy has been a bust. The unions, for our lifetime and beyond, have always supported the Democrats. They get together, they have a meeting, and they decide what president we're going to get behind. They always pick the Democrats. And when that Democratic administration takes over, they give subsidies to the unions. They protect the unions with laws. It's been a hand-in-hand relationship since the beginning of time. That changed this year for the first time in something like 60 years. The unions got together. They voted. Who are we going to support for the presidential race? Nobody. Wait, we always pick a Democrat, and then they help us out. Nobody. They selected no one to support, which means a lot of those union members are going to vote Trump. That is a huge number. Dems see warning signs for Harris with Latino men in Pennsylvania. This was on October 18th. Everyone else saw it for months. The data was clear. It's been clear for years. The Hispanic vote has been trending Republican, and it's definitely trending towards Trump. Whether or not you believe it, whether you believe the narrative that he is racist or not, does not really mean anything. We can just simply look at registration data. We can just simply look at voter data. And you can put your narrative or your story about him being racist aside and say, hey, whether that's true or not, here are the numbers. And now the Dems are seeing the numbers. The Ohio Senate. Sherrod Brown's been an Ohio senator representing the Democrats for almost 20 years. He was supposed to trounce Bernie Moreno. Moreno had no chance. He was an outsider, a challenger, not really the greatest candidate. It was over until days ago. Floodgates pouring out. Moreno's in the lead. And if we look at the early voting data, 7% of the votes gone to Moreno, 7% has gone to Sherrod Brown. Oh, well, they're tied. No, not really, because as we know from the data, from previous years, from history, the Democrats make their major gains early in the voting. They are early voters. They get a head start. The Republicans surge back at the end because they show up on election day, but the early head start usually can carry a Democrat over. Brown has no early head start. It's neck and neck. So on election day, Moreno surges and wins. And this is unsurprising because Trump, whether you like it or not, brings people out that don't normally vote. And that's what winning these elections is really all about, voter mobilization. When he is on the ticket, Trump people show up. And when those Trump people show up, who are typically not the most politically engaged, and they have to pick everyone else on the ballot, and this is not uncommon, this is not unusual to just Republicans or Democrats. They vote for the top, and then when they go through the rest of the ticket, they just pick names with R's next to them. And Democrats do the same. They'll pick Biden and pick names with D next to them. So Trump shows up and drags Bernie Moreno to the finish line. The overall national trend for the early vote thus far is, this is on October 17th, the Democrats are losing voters in registration. They have the numbers. This isn't a narrative. This isn't made up. They can see. We have fewer people registered. That means fewer votes than last time. Not good. Democrats are requesting fewer mail-in ballots. They had a significant amount of mail-in ballots in 2020. Now they have less. And remember, the 2020 election was close. You cannot afford to not have as many mail-in ballots. And the Democrats, so far in early voting, they're not showing up like they did before. Their numbers are down. They cannot afford. These elections are so close, especially in the swing states. You can't afford to not match what you did the previous cycle. We can look at the chart. Early voting, Democrats, that light blue, they had 28.7%. At this point, now it's 25.2%. Fewer people are showing up early in absentee. Whereas the Republicans, although it's small, but they're actually showing up more early. This is a good sign for the Republicans moving forward. If they're more engaged now, they'll be more engaged tomorrow, they'll be more engaged on election day, whereas the Democrats are less engaged now, will likely be less engaged moving forward, and will be less engaged on election day. The Dems cannot afford to not get their head start. They didn't get their head start, and it is over, folks. White House official, lots of mega donors currently at the dinner are texting campaign leaders asking them if losing was always the plan, like in a serious way. What's that mean? Mega donors who gave a bunch of money are basically saying, wait a second. You asked me for money. I gave you $10 million because you, the Democratic Party, led me to believe that we had a shot. Did we really ever have a shot? Did we ever have a chance? Could we have won this thing? Or were you playing me? Did you just take my money and cash the check with no intention of actually trying to win? We talked about this class previously. If you're watching TV, you will tune into a game that you don't care about if it's close late in the game. If you're led to believe that a political contest is close, you keep watching MSNBC. You keep watching Fox News. Otherwise, you find something else to do with your time. They know that. So they need you to believe that it's close. The media, the newspapers, the social media influencers, MSNBC, Fox, they need the American public to think this thing is close. Otherwise, you're turning your channel somewhere else. Just like in sports, you'll watch BYU play UNLV on a Saturday night. 2 games. You may not even know what state BYU is in. You don't know a player on the team, but it's close and it's late in the game. And so you stay on and your eyes stick to the screen during the advertisement. And MSNBC and Fox and ESPN are just cashing the checks all the way. But there's another angle to this. If it's a close game and your party has a chance and they ask you for money, hey, it's close. We need it. We need to get over it. The last push. All right, here's $10 million. Well, here's the problem. This thing wasn't close. It's been a blowout. If you turn on BYU versus UNLV and it's a blowout, you go find something else to do. You change the channel. You do not sit through the advertisements. You do not donate $10 million if you know that your candidate is losing 60 to 40 in the betting markets. If you know that, if you know it's a blowout. But if you're misled by the media, working hand in hand with the Democratic Party to create a false narrative that Harris has a shot and that they're actually trying to win, then you write the check. And a lot of these mega donors are realizing they cut checks and were fooled, they were tricked, they were played by the party that they've been loyal to their entire life. The party that supposedly has always had their back didn't have their back this time. They had the back of their pocket. They had their wallet. They had their check. They kept the thing going. And it becomes painfully clear when you look at the candidate that they selected. This is an election about change. Did they pick a change agent? No, they picked a candidate from the same administration that tried to attempt to act like it was change, but had every opportunity to prove that she was the agent of change. She could not articulate how she would change because she was never the agent of change. She never had a shot. They knew she never had a shot. They had internal data all year that suggested they didn't have a shot. Did they share that with donors? No. Did they and the media share that with the public? No. But now the dam has broken, the information is coming out, and regardless of the internal data that is being leaked and the registration data and the polling numbers and the real number, the real stats that the Democrats have, the real stats that they collect with their $1 billion pocketbook, that's right, $1 billion. With $1 billion, you have solid research, you have solid knowledge, you really know what's going on. There are no surprises. They knew they had no chance. It's leaking out now. And even if you don't trust the leaking out information, people are just seeing with their own eyes. With Kamala's failed interviews, at least in the middle, that she never had a shot. She hasn't got it. She is more of the same. This isn't change. Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer, they could have been change agents. They could have possibly gone toe-to-toe with Donald Trump if the Democratic Party were trying to win, as the donor asked. They would have switched candidates. They would have had a new open primary. They would have selected someone that represented the party, could articulate the message of the party, and continue the party's dominance of politics. But they didn't. They chose Kamala. Now, why did they choose Kamala? Because if they switched to Gavin Newsom, if they switched to Gretchen Whitmer, if they made any change to the top of their ticket outside of Biden and Harris, they would have had to refund their donations. They would have to give them money back. It's always been about the money. They didn't want to give the money back, so they let Harris run. They wanted to keep cashing. They continued to tell donors. The media continued to tell the public that it was close because they wanted to keep the money coming in. The public has been misled. Democratic Party loyalists and members, donors have been misled. They've been lied to. They've been mistreated. This could be a very significant moment in American history, one like we have never seen before. In previous eras, political parties have come and gone and died and been replaced. But in the modern era, it seems impossible. It seems incredible. It would never happen today. We are stuck with Republicans and Democrats forever, but that might change this time. Those mega donors, that 10, 20, 30 million, even the regular donors, as they find out they were misled and the money that they forked over, their hard-earned cash, was a sham, they may not come back home to the Democrats. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to switch over to the Republicans, but they may not come back. They may still support the party in kind and in discussion and in values, but they are not going to be the loyal, hardcore supporters of the party. Maybe they still have the same views, but that party, it may be doomed. And it's not just a matter of saying, well, I just don't support them or even really go to their parties anymore. It's a matter of if you do not continue to donate to the Democrat Party, they will not have money. And without money, the party could cease to exist, or at least be damaged to the point that a new party could emerge and garner those new donors. This is a very significant moment. Beyond this election, beyond Trump, beyond inflation and wars across the world. This could be a turning point in American politics where we see a new party emerge because of the scandalous behavior by the Democrat Party requesting cash and fundraising while knowing they never had a shot. It could also devastate the media when the public finds out this thing was a blowout, but you told me it was going to be close all along. Skepticism and trust in the media is already at an all-time high. And when they drop the ball on this one, and they understand the influence of money in this one, and the connections to the Democratic Party in this one, legacy media could be dead. MSNBC could be dead. CNN could be dead. Fox News could be dead. These things are already on life support. They're already depending on boomer viewership. Gen Z, millennials, Gen X even, they're already not watching legacy media. They're trusting social media. They're trusting websites. They get their information somewhere else. So the writing's already on the wall for legacy media. And if they lose their boomers, they lose their advertisers. And if they lose their advertisers, their role in politics, their role in shaping public policy will be insignificant, meaningless. That's the news. Maybe a little bit of slight bias. Who knows?